This is the Alden Report.
Hey, it's Mike Alden. I hope you're enjoying the Alden Report as much as I am. I love bringing to you new and exciting people that add value to your life. I'm also super excited to announce my latest book, Bestseller Secrets. Listen, if you're an author, maybe you're thinking about writing a book, maybe you've already written a book, maybe you're an entrepreneur and you want to continue to grow your brand, maybe you're an entrepreneur and you want to bring in more leads, maybe you're a stay-at-home mom and you wrote a cookbook or a children's book, maybe you wrote a fantasy book, a self-help book, a tell-all book, a novel. It doesn't really matter. In my latest book, Bestseller Secrets, I give you all the information that I've literally spent millions of dollars trying to figure this thing out, and I'm going to give it to you absolutely free with my book, Bestseller Secrets. Go to bestsellersecretsbook.com. Again, it's bestsellersecretsbook.com. I give you all the information that I've spent literally millions of dollars trying to figure this whole world out. My books have gone on to do amazing things. I'm a 3-time Wall Street Journal, USA Today bestselling author. I've hit #1 on Amazon hundreds of times. My books have been the #1 book in the world against all books in every category. And I've also done this for other authors. And I'm giving you this information absolutely free. Just go to bestsellersecretsbook.com. You got to pay a small processing fee, but it doesn't really matter, again, because I've spent millions of dollars. And here's the other secret. You can do all this stuff yourself. If you don't have a team, that's okay. If you don't have a lot of time, that's okay. You read the information in my book, again, whether you just started writing a book, whether you've written the book, whether you wrote the book years ago, and you want to kind of resurrect it. In my book, Bestseller Secrets, I show you exactly what you need to do, and I'm giving you the book absolutely free. Go to bestsellersecretsbook.com, download the book, take that information, use it to become a bona fide, legitimate #1 bestseller. I show you how to become a #1 bestseller in less than 24 hours. And again, I'm giving you this information for free. Go to bestsellersecretsbook.com. Again, it's bestsellersecretsbook.com.
This is the Alden Report.
All right. Well, my name is Mike Alden. We are here in Blue Bay Studios. As always, I always tell you how excited I am for my guests. I love bringing to you real people that are doing real things, and they continue to level up is the term that I'm hearing these days. We met on this amazing app called Clubhouse. Again, for those of you who aren't on Clubhouse, you need to get on it. If you have an iPhone, it's 100%. If you don't have an iPhone, you need to go get one before they open it up. You know, my next guest, he's an author. He's an entrepreneur. He's been recognized as one of the top, or if not the #1 mortgage professional in the United States. He's growing a pretty big business. He's doing some great things, and he's got a book coming out called Rocket Fuel. And I'm really excited to have him here to talk about his background, his business, how he scaled his business, and also his book. Because we've met a little bit and we've talked a little bit about it. It's an amazing book. It was the foreword was actually written by none other than Grant Cardone, which has been on the Alden Report a couple times. Please help me welcome Mike Ciorrocco, also known as C-Roc. Thanks, brother.
Michael, thanks for having me, man. I'm so thankful to be here. I always start every interview I go on with gratitude because that's how I start my day. And I just, I'm really humbled at the opportunity that I get to speak in front of people, man. It's just, I never want to take that for granted because I love it. It's a passion of mine. And I just want to express gratitude to you and your audience for listening. Thank you.
Well, likewise, man. So again, we met on Clubhouse. It's an amazing opportunity for anyone in any business, whatever it is. And, we gravitated towards each other. I think we have kind of similar backgrounds and upbringing. So tell us, for those of my viewers and listeners who don't know you, tell us a little bit about your background and kind of how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah, I grew up outside of Philly in a small town. It was like a mushroom capital of the world called Kennett Square. My family's Italian. They grew up in the mushroom business, and I grew up in the mushroom business. And my dad was a mason, and he built mushroom houses, actually, pouring the concrete, the block, all that. And so most of the mushrooms come from that area that you may eat in salads or with steak or what have you. So, but I came from a broken home. I don't remember my parents ever together. Ever since I've known them, they've been split up. And when that happens, you go through a lot of conflict as a kid, especially if your parents aren't mature and emotionally stable. And they were very young, when they had me. So there was a lot of conflict, and I became the only reason that they communicated after that. Right. And so that caused a lot of conflict when step parents came into play and their agendas got in the mix, and then other kids came in and all that. So from about age 0 to 8, 1 to 8, somewhere in that range, I lived with my mom and did the every other weekend thing with my dad. But then from 8 on, my mom decided to remarry for the 3rd time. And I didn't want to go into the house with another man and learn another man's, rules and all that. So I gave my dad a shot and I said, I'm going to move in with him. He did a kind of timeshare sales pitch on me at dinner one time at this Italian restaurant. And I bought in and I broke my mom's heart and I moved and I lived in my dad's house for 3 years. And while I was there, a lot of my stepmother's jealousy was taken out on me. There was a lot of conflict there, and there was a lot of emotional, psychological abuse, threats. I slept with bats at night, my baseball bat some nights because I was so scared. A lot of fighting, and I catch heat for sharing this story, by the way. And I don't get to talk to my dad right now because not because of my want to, but because of other factors, outside factors, or people, I should say. But what happened was when I was I turned 11, I decided this is not the environment for me. It wasn't conducive to my happiness. So I told my mom about it. And when you're going through an abusive situation, a lot of times you get scared to tell anybody because you don't want some ramifications from it. You don't know if people are going to believe you. You don't know if it's normal or not. Sometimes you think, well, this is just normal. And so I finally broke the news. My mom said, no, you don't have to live like that. That's unacceptable. I'll file court papers to get you out of there, but you need to stick to your guns. Like, you can't flip flop on this because when I go through all this, they're going to try to talk you out of it. And she said, Mikey, in life, when you believe in something, you need to stick to your guns because people are going to try to talk you out of it to match their agenda or to justify their position in life. If you start to do well, which you're going to, because you're a leader and you're an inspirer. So these are things my mom did for me when I was a kid, man. And I look back and I'm thankful. So when my dad got court papers, and by the way, you can chime in with the questions anytime. It's your show, Mike. But
I will. I'm enjoying the story. I didn't know this about you. So, I mean, I've listened to you speak a bunch of times in Clubhouse. I didn't know this part, but it's interesting, because, I will, I guess, interrupt as you gave me the opportunity is, it's interesting, that you're talking about this because so many people, I mean, have gone through very similar things, and the disruption in your household. And I think it's really important to talk about because a lot of people may not think that it's not that traumatic, to be candid with you, but it is at a young age, especially if you're dealing with disruption and really unstable households as a young child. It's like, I'm just trying to envision you as a young child, like, like a lot of kids, you don't have any options. You're there, you know what I mean? You can't go anywhere, right? So it's pretty traumatic. And so I want to hear the rest of it.
Now, again, I'm not telling the story to play victim because I'm just sharing with you the reason you asked about the background, but this is where this rocket fuel concept came from. So I was going back to my dad's after the weekend with my mom's. I would get like interrogated every time I'd come home. Like, what'd you do there? What'd they say about us? Those kind of things. And I'm a freaking kid, for crying out loud. So I waited every single day, came home from school, waiting for these court papers to be, well, I didn't really know what was going to happen. I was like waiting. And one day, finally he got served and I came home and I knew something was up. And I saw these papers in his hand and he said, Mikey, go back to your room. So I sat on my bed for about 5 minutes probably, but it felt like 5 hours waiting, like shit in my pants, like just like my hero. My dad was my hero, man. Like I looked up to him. He had his big forearms and rough hands and hard worker, dude. Mason, like just great. He was self-employed, great business. He always carried a wad of $100 bills in his pocket too, with a rubber band around it. And I always looked up to him for that. It was something that was cool to me. He flashed it. And so he came back with the papers. He says, it says here you want to move back with your mom. Is that true? And I remember my mom saying, stick to your guns. So I didn't get in discussion with him, but I said, yeah. And he said, they don't have it well there. Now, my mom was not well off. Like we lived in a $30,000 house. We go on vacation, thank God, but it was to the Jersey Shore with black trash bags as our suitcases. And, for the longest time, I was never wanting to share that. That's embarrassing. That's why most people don't share their stories because they think they're embarrassed by it. It's ordinary and nobody really cares about it. But what most people don't share their story for, or the reason for Mike, is because they underestimated the power of it to inspire millions of people. And so I started thinking about this later on in life a few years ago. Like, I got to share my story because I saw Pete Vargas do it at GrowthCon, which I'll get into later. But anyway, so he was reminding me how poor my mom was, right? And I'm like, I don't care. That doesn't matter to me. That doesn't matter to me. And he said, okay, if that's the case, and he takes a wad of $100 bills out. He peeled one off, crumpled it up, and threw it at me and said, you're going to need this then when you're living on the streets with your mother one day. And at that moment, man, like something happened. Something magical happened at that moment because like a spark was lit. And I was always a stubborn kid. I was always told I was hard-headed. And recently I looked up the word stubborn because so many people say it's a bad thing. But when you look up the definition of stubborn, I realize it's not the wrong thing when it's on the right thing. I looked up the word and it says perversely unyielding. Perversely unyielding. Now, unyielding strong enough, right? But perversely unyielding, that fired me up. Then I'm like, dude, I'm stubborn on everything, man, that I'm on. If I do something, I'm perversely unyielding. That's my superpower. So that spark happened at that moment. And then I also thought in my mind, like, this is an ordinary situation. I didn't think anything different. I thought a lot of people must go through this. So I'm going to show them. I'm going to show my dad and I'm going to show them how you can come out of something like this and do great things. So my whole life, 30 years, I've been driving off of that factor. My graph in my life for all areas of my life has always been on a gradual, the trend line was always like rising, right? And you'd have some up and downs, but the trend line was always going up, which is a good graph. And I tried to figure that out 3 years ago. I'm like, why am my graph trend line going up in every area of my life all the time, no matter what happens to me? I've been through a lot of other shit too, which I put in the book, but why is that happening? And I figured it out. After self-analysis, I realized I was taking everything that would stop normal people. And I say no normal people because I'm not normal. I'm definitely not normal. I'm an ordinary guy that turned into something like a superhero. And I'll explain more later. But I was taking all this stuff normal people would let slow them down or push them back. And I was putting it into my tank, storing it, and converting it to rocket fuel for my future to blast off. Instead of weighing down in my tank or my trunk like most people do, they put it in their trunk. And they resent and they get stuck in their past and it weighs them down. I put it in my tank and I can't be stopped because of that, because everything that comes my way, I'm not just getting through it or around it. I'm using this fuel to go really far. So once I became aware of that, man, it was lights out, game over. I was able to throw rocket fuel on it. And now my trajectory line on my graph has skyrocketed over the last year and a half. It's an amazing thing. And I have to bottle it to get it out to people.
Wow, that's amazing. I just want to just real quick again, for those who are listening and watching right now, we're on with Mike Ciorrocco, also known as C-Roc. You can see it right there in the background if you are watching it. He's the author of the book that's coming out called Rocket Fuel. Again, the forward is written by Grant Cardone. If you're watching, you can see he's got the 10X hat, he's got the 10X rule in the background, and we're talking. And his book talks about how you can, like he just said, you can take those setbacks and turn them into rocket fuel. If you'd like some more information about C-Roc, you can just go to MikeCroc.com. You can find him, Mikey C-Roc, on Instagram. He's pretty active on there. In fact, the whole perversely unyielding thing, I saw one of those posts there. I think I liked it and gave you some fire on that. Okay, like the setbacks, right? You have a great positive outlook. You have a great aura about you. You seem excited about life. But let's talk about the setbacks, because we do all have setbacks in life, whether it be personal or professional, and a lot of them are painful. How do you really change your mindset to really understand? Because when you're going, Winston Churchill says, if you're going to go through hell, you might as well go all the way through. But how do you really do it, man? Like, how do you? Is there a habit? Is there a routine? Is it Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's definitely a proactive formula, because when you're in the adversity, the closer in proximity you are to the adversity, the more emotions there are, the more chaos there is, the less light there is at the end of the tunnel. So this is a concept that you can't get when you're right in an adversity. You got to just survive in adversity if you don't know this concept already. And once you survive, then you need to get on this. But because of it being proactive, you got to prepare yourself. Now, one thing I do need to, I've been working on something else recently, and I'm thinking to myself, like, where we are right now and everything that happens to us is our fault. That's something that we all have to decide, because it's based on the decisions you made in their past, the words you spoke, the thoughts you had, the actions you did or did not take. Everything has led you to where you are right now. And the setbacks that you have, you take responsibility in some of those. So the thing is that you first have to take 100% responsibility over your life. And when you do that, you gain control of your life and your surroundings. Now, to the degree you give up responsibility, you give up control. So you have to decide, do you want to be a puppet on strings, controlled by someone else? And it could be a little bit of control, or it could be a lot. Or do you want to take control of your life? That's a decision you have to make first and foremost. You need to try to eliminate the things that are coming at you, that are slowing you down and stopping you from you causing them. All right. The other thing is, the other things that come your way that aren't from you causing them are always either training sessions or fuel. Now, when you understand that, it switches your mind to understand that, look, I need these things in my life. It's just like, you can't have light without darkness. You can't have happiness without sadness. This is part of life's experiences. And they're coming your way to teach you something, either to move you a little bit to 1 degree left, 1 degree right, teach you a better way to do things. And what happens is then you start, like, it's like driving down the road and that gas light comes on and that orange light comes on. You know, when that happens, sometimes I'd like to see how far I can take it. Have you done that before?
Yeah, of course.
It says 10 miles. I'm like, bullshit.
I have. And yeah, it's so funny you say that, but yeah, I totally have. Yeah.
But
your car drives much better when it's on a full tank of gas, the weight of it. But anyway, but yeah. So.
Yeah. So it's like riding down the road. And then when you get this mindset, you start looking for fuel. You start looking for setbacks. You look for problems. And in life, problems give us purpose, man. That's why we're put on this planet, to solve things. So it's all a difference in mindset. So now when things happen now, and in the past, you get this weird feeling. Everybody gets it in different places. I get it in my chest when there's something that doesn't go my way, right? It's like,
right.
I still get it. I'm human. I still get a little bit of it. But the trick is to catch it right away. Catch it and understand, okay, wait a minute, this is a setback. Acknowledge it. Then once you acknowledge it, accept it. Don't try to deny it. Park it. And then understand what it's for and start looking for the opportunity immediately rather than 6 months, a year, years down the road, which most people do. They go down the road and then they look back on things that happened and they're like, oh, I see why that was happening now. You might as well look for the opportunity now and take time out of the equation. So this has a lot of benefits, but mainly it makes you unstoppable until they pluck you from this planet.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know, I was going to ask the question and I already know the answer, but I'm just going to ask it again because maybe you can expand on it. So do you feel as though that we need adversity? If we don't have it, we're not going to be able to harness that rocket fuel that you're talking about in your book?
Yeah, absolutely. My kryptonite is complacency and being comfortable.
Okay.
And this avoids that. Like this voids comfortability and complacement. Like, have you ever been comfortable when there's a setback or adversity?
No.
Like when there's a fire, if you're depressed and there's a fire in your house, do you have time to be depressed?
No.
Like you take action. You don't, let's go. Right. So that's what it's for. It's like a wake up call sometimes. And so, I mean, you absolutely need that. Now, being comfortable and complacent is not something that just appears. It creeps in like water inside of cracks in the concrete. And then all of a sudden when something freezes, man, it expands. And then you're like, oh shit.
Right.
Right. So this is one thing that I take pride in, always looking for comfortability. I don't know if that's a word, or complacency creeping in. I'm very, very keen and sensitive to it. And sometimes I will cause problems on purpose in my organization that I have a large mortgage division. I cause problems on purpose sometimes, because if I see some of my people getting too comfortable, I'll throw some shit on their plate. And then all of a sudden,
give me an example. Actually, I was going to ask you. So I didn't. When did you start your mortgage company? Because depending on when you started and what you went through, there were some really difficult times. And when did you start that? Tell me a little bit about that business and how you started it, because I think it's interesting.
So 2005, I got into real estate. I was in home sales for 9 years, selling water treatment systems, closing deals that night, going to these houses, and I knew I was destined for something better than that. Like was that straight up door-to-door salesman, just like. Yeah, they would set appointments through a telemarketing department, but then we also did bottle drops at houses, and then the people would fill out a questionnaire, put their water in a tube. We'd come back and pick them up, and then the telemarketing department would call them and set appointments.
Right.
And then we'd go out and test the water for people, and then show them what was in the water. It was legit. Like they had bad water, and we would fix the water for them. But I would close $5,000 to $7,000 deals that night in like a 2.5 hour presentation, handling objections. And nothing wrong with that. But I just knew I was destined for a bigger game. Like that wasn't the game I should be playing. But I'd stuck with it for 9 years because I was off kilter, off track. I didn't have intention and purpose at that time. I was partying like a stupid ass. And but then I got into real estate because I was like, the next thing for me, I was like, there's got to be something else. Hit in a year, top producer, no problem. And then got into mortgages from there because my partner now, Chris, he was in the mortgage business. And I'm like, dude, I want to do mortgages. I don't want to show people houses. Like I want to do the financing part of it. Let's blow it up. So I got in the mortgage business for about 5 years, was a loan officer, did very well. And then I decided like, this isn't big enough either. Let's start growing branches. Let's just open up our own thing, for this company and start a division. And the owner of the company said, everybody was leaving at that time because that's when 2008 happened and people had to get licensed. The people that couldn't get licensed went somewhere else. And we said to him, hey, we want to start opening branches, man. We're going to do this. And he's like, I can't say no to you guys because you'll probably leave, but I don't think you're going to make it. You don't have what it takes.
Wow.
And, you know, like, look, man,
that's some rocket fuel right there.
Yeah. So that's another episode that's in the book
Right.
too. I'm like, okay, I'll show you, pal. So we went out and did it, and we built up 7 branches. We had like 40 some employees. We were killing it. Got it to 8 figures in revenue. And then that same guy did some things that we shouldn't done. And I'm not going to get into detail right now about it, but money went missing and it was a problem. So I play golf for money with some friends. And if I see somebody picking up the ball or kicking it with their foot when we're playing for money, I don't play golf with that person anymore for money. So same thing here. I'm done. So I picked up all of our employees, moved them to another platform at Nations Lending, where we are now. And we did it again. The same, it had to start from scratch again. We had employees, but we started revenue from scratch, and we got back to that 8 figures again in 2 years.
Can I stop you there? So like, I just, having built multiple businesses myself, and, that's a critical moment, I think, in your life too, where, we don't have to have all the details of exactly what happened, but obviously the business you were in and the I don't know if he was a partner or what have you, or it really screwed things up. And for you to make that decision and for those people to come with you is also a pretty big decision. Talk a little bit about, I'd like to kind of get in your head in that moment when you decided, all right, this is what we're doing, and like really what you were feeling, because I know what that's like to make those types of decisions where it could go one way or it could go the other. And fortunately it went the right way for you. Tell me about the thought process of like, man, like, we need to do this, and here are the potential downfalls to it. Like, tell me the thought process.
It makes me sick thinking about it, actually.
It makes me sick but you know what, man, the reason why, because
I'll talk about it, but
I know what it's like to have to make those decisions, right? I mean, I've made decisions where literally, if I'm wrong, I'm out of business.
Yeah.
And that moment that you're describing is pretty much the same thing. So I want you to talk about it, because you probably get that. By the way, I literally, just the back of my neck, just kind of the hairs in the back. I need a haircut. That's why I'm wearing the hat too, but I always do. It's a big deal, but it's also a part of entrepreneurship in the journey. So tell me about that. Like, let's hear it.
That's a good story. So I won't get into details that I don't need to get into, but
money
went missing. I was being told all along by some people that were the type of people that always complain a lot, right?
Right.
Those types. And I'm like, I don't feel like hearing that shit. I'm focused, man. I never looked at other companies. I'm a company guy. We're like, let's keep our head down and focus, right? And the murmurs that they were telling me eventually that I didn't listen to were true, right? And I felt like shit because I was so loyal to this person. And here I was caught off guard in the fact that I was standing up for him and towing the company line, and come to find out I look like the asshole.
Yep.
That wasn't, that was a bad feeling. I went through about, 3 months where I was miserable, man. It was a dark time. I didn't know the answers, what to do. I knew we would have to do something. And I lost.
Now, can I just stop you right there? Did you, at that moment in time, did you have a family? Were you married? Did you have kids?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, when I left real estate back in the day, I had one son, and I went from making money to zero income, and like made 6 figures the first year. It was like, I got to make this happen. I took this is burn the ship mentality. This is how C-Roc operates. I took a $15,000 line of credit on my house just to pay the bills, and went like head first right off the cliff into the mortgage business. And like I said, I made 6 figures the first year, right before 08 happened, and made more money each year after that. But I'm a burn the ships kind of guy, dude. And I just believe in myself that much that no matter what, I can always go back to selling water treatment systems if I have to, which I don't want to do. But I know that I can do whatever I got to do to make money. But again, so when we went through this, I had that decision. Like, I knew that we could do it. I just didn't know how long it would take. And when we made this move, I told my team, here's what happened. It's my fault. I took responsibility for it because I should have seen it. It's on me, not anybody else, not the guy. It's on me. I was pissed at him, but it was on me. And we got to make a move, guys. Who's coming with us? And everybody went. Yeah. And then when we got to the new place, we focused on culture. Our culture was our foundation. That was the number one thing. And we laid the groundwork and said, here's how we're doing it. If you want to join us, this is where we're going. You either come with us or you don't come with us. It's up to you, but I'll start by myself. Here's the other thing. You got to know that you can start by yourself if you have to, and add one good person that sees your vision and aligns with your vision, and have that confidence that you'll do that from one person to 2 people to 10 people and on. And I have that belief. And so everybody came. Some people end up leaving later on once we got aboard, like 5 or 6 people.
Did they go back?
No.
Okay.
They didn't go back. They went to a different company, but they didn't want to tote the company line as far as culture, man. They were people. They wanted to do their own thing. They were shady. It just didn't, I was like, dude, you could do that somewhere else. I'll support you. Go ahead.
Can I ask you about when you make that move too? Because at the time, you were doing okay, but financially you probably weren't flush with cash, and so you decided to start this organization with 40 people. I know that in the mortgage business, I mean, really, if you just have a phone and a computer and some leads, you're good to go. So you don't need, but like, talk about that and the kind of the really scary proposition of bringing people with you and not really having a lot, because I've done it too, right? So not having a lot there to, like, if this doesn't work, like, everybody's fucked.
We went through a phase where we had to be really, I hate being like that. I'm not the person that's shady and like under the table, but as we were making the transition, we had to make like meetings and things with new companies while we were still working at the other company.
Right.
I don't like that shit. That's not me, man. And so when we did that, it was a very stressful time. When we made the move, we had money put away, and we had to do some shit, man. We had to sacrifice some things.
Right.
I lived on basically, we paid ourselves at the new company minimum wage, the leadership team, for 6 months before we took a paycheck besides minimum wage, and paid all of our employees while we got it up and running. And the company that we went to, where we are now, actually went in the hole with us, which we were in the hole with them basically, maybe like 175, 200 grand.
Right.
And they did
Can
that.
I ask you another question about that?
Yeah.
Because I don't like being in debt, but I've been in debt in pretty much my entire business career. I hate it, but it's also what people don't realize. It's from a business standpoint, it's kind of like a necessary thing sometimes. So the 175, 200K, was that something that they openly said, we'll do this for you, or did it just happen over time?
No. So when we got there, they understand that when you bring on a branch, you're going to have that situation.
Okay.
And they actually would have paid us more. They would have paid us more than minimum wage if we needed it, just to get us going, to get us there. But we just didn't want to. Like, I didn't want that, because I was like, let's live off our savings. Let's sell some assets. Let's do what we got to do. Dude, I ran up credit cards. I did whatever I had to do. And I was like, look, I never had bad credit. I never claimed bankruptcy before. If I give this our all, we just go full force into this thing, and we have to, God forbid, declare bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, man, sorry, I did my best. Like, I knew I'd do my best, but I never did that before. And that's the way I thought. I'm like, once I had that mindset, though, once I knew that the worst case scenario is I have to go bankrupt, and I never did that before, and it's not intentional, I was good. And then we were like that. So
I think that's really important too, though, what you just said. I talk about it a lot. I always tell people to prepare for the worst case scenario. And if you're comfortable with that, no one's really comfortable with it, but if you can mentally withstand it and understand and recognize that this is the worst thing that could happen, then everything from there, it makes it a little bit easier. So that's really important. Again, I wanted to kind of highlight what you just said. And for those listening and watching, it's really important. It's a part of business. It's a part of life, being able to recognize that the decision you make may possibly put you in a bad spot. But if you're comfortable with that decision, it makes it a lot easier to make, right?
Yeah. Well, there was nothing comfortable with anything. just be honest with you. So, but everybody bought in, and then the leadership that I showed, and the people that bought in, the leadership they showed, was powerful, man. When you start seeing everything start to work together, and the culture's going, and everybody's buying in, and like showing up every day and grinding, dude, it's powerful. And then they trust in you, and it's every day I'd start to see the difference and the growth of it. It was just, I got addicted to it. I was like, this is awesome. So, and during that phase, like, I wasn't doing this stuff that I'm doing now, the podcast. This is only about 1.5 years old.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that.
But it started back in November of 2019. And I got involved with Grant. My stepfather passed away. Basically what happened, my stepfather passed away. He was my guy. He stepped in when I was 11, when I moved back to my mom's. His name was George. And he was my mentor, man. And George wasn't the best with money. He knew how to stretch money like a long ways, but he didn't know how to make money. But he taught me right from wrong. He taught me about reading and looking up words and understanding what words mean. And but he's real passionate too. And, I think when he passed in 2019, suddenly of a heart attack, his passion came into me 2 weeks later. After that, I felt this power. I felt this, something was in energy, something. And I'm like, what the hell? And I called my little brother, Casey. I'm like, you feel like, I feel this. He's like, yeah, dude, I feel something. And he said, you got to read this book though. The 10X rule. He said, you got to read this book. This guy sounds just like you. And I'm like, get out of here. Let me see this thing. So I read it and I'm like, holy shit, this guy's talking to me. And then I was, for years though, for some reason, Mike, I was listening to other people too much and the bad things that were happening. And this is when I went on the self-analysis journey. Like, why was my graphs always going up? I was caged in, like something caged me in. Like I was basically, because I wasn't taking responsibility, I was giving control to other people. And I was worrying about what other people would think when I have an idea. And so the animal that I am was caged up. When I read that book and I started hanging out with Grant and Brandon Dawson and those guys, Richie and Jared, all these guys that I've been hanging out with the last year and a half, I was able, like, it gave me validation to be the animal that I am. And I came out like that. And in a year and a half, I've accomplished so much because of that. The passion that came into me from my stepfather, George, and the validation that I got from my mentors, dude, I'm like unstoppable now. And that's where I am. That's why I've advanced so far in such a short period of time.
In a second, I want to talk to you a little bit more about that validation and really kind of, how it happened and what gave you the confidence to go ahead and do it. And like you said, it's happened in a very short period of time. We're on with Mike Ciorrocco, C-Roc, also known as C-Roc. He's the author of Rocket Fuel, Convert Setbacks, Become Unstoppable. We met on Clubhouse, and you can just tell by listening to him, watching him, he's an inspiring guy. It's never easy. It hasn't been easy, and he just continues to push through. He's inspired me. Again, we met on Clubhouse. He's doing some great things. If you'd like some more information about C-Roc, you can just go to MikeCroc.com. You can also find him on Instagram. He's got that little blue check box that I don't have on mine. We'll talk about that later. Mikey C-Roc, you can find him there on Instagram. He's doing some great things there. And I love what he's doing there too. He's putting out a lot of content, but it's just good quality content. It's his content. And again, it's inspired me. His book is The Forward was written by Grant Cardone, which is kind of a big deal. We've had Grant on the podcast. It's more than kind of, it is a big deal. Just to even get that done is awesome. So if you'd like some more information, go to Mike C-Roc or check him out on Instagram, Mikey C-Roc. So this validation thing, like you talked about, and you said that, the guys over at Cardone's operation kind of helped you with that. And you talked about your stepfather and how he passed away, and you felt like almost this energy that came to you. Was like, other than, your stepfather passing, was there one particular moment that you can remember? Maybe it was a meeting with Cardone or some of his people where they said, look, C-Roc, man, you have a great story. You can inspire people to go out there and start doing it because you have this business and now you're building the business of C-Roc. Tell me a little bit about that moment when you decided to really put yourself out there.
Yeah. So I was at GrowthCon after George passed away, and I saw Grant, obviously, and everybody he brought up. It was the one in Marlins Stadium. Mm-hmm. And, this is the power of this, dude. Like this guy, like, I know a lot of people like are fans of Grant and all that. I'm not a fan of Grant. It's more of, like I said, I'm a student, mm-hmm. and I see what he's doing. And I'm like, wait a minute, if he can do it, I can do it.
Right.
And that's the way I look at it. And I want to edify him, and I want to lift his message up too, just as much as mine. I want to spread the message because I believe in it.
Right.
But I just looked at it like, dude, I can do this. And that's what the power of it. He wants people to be successful. So I'm at GrowthCon, and Pete Vargas comes on stage. He's sweating. He's nervous. He looks scared to death. Nobody knew who Pete was. And he comes on stage because he got the opportunity, because he pitched Jared Glenn about his idea of teaching people how to speak from stage and sell from stage. And I'm sitting there in the middle by the pitcher's mound. And I look up there and I'm listening to Pete talk about his relationship with his father. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, this is crazy. Like, and everybody else disappeared in the audience. It was just like me and Pete. And he's sitting there talking. And I'm like, this is powerful, man. He's talking to me. And he's telling a story about his father and the relationship they had and growing up. And man, it hit me here. And I'm like, wow. And that's what he was teaching. When you speak from stage, you want to hit people in the heart first, because they won't trust you if you start talking content right away and try to hit their head first. They won't trust you. But he spoke about it, hit me here. Then he closed with the heart again. But what I thought about was, wait a minute, this guy's up here for the first time in front of the crowd like this size. He's sweating. He's nervous. He's telling the story too. I'm not talking about Pete. I love him to death. And I thought to myself, if he can do it, I know I can do it. So I got in the car with the fellas that I was with that day. And I said, guys, I could do that, dude. Because these guys, they see me coaching real estate agents and things. And they're like, dude, you can do that. You can. And they were encouraging me. So I'm like, oh shit. So I won some money playing golf a week or so afterwards. And then I'm like, what am I going to do with this money? So I decided to go to Pete's thing. He had a thing at 10X headquarters, and he was talking about that process of speaking from stage and selling from stage. And I just went there. And when I did that, we had these intros, and I stood up and I said, hey, my name's Mike Ciorrocco. My friends call me C-Roc. Happy to be here. And I just talked to him. And then when we were done, they critiqued that. And they said, we connected with you because you said, my friends call me C-Roc. Now, I was already called C-Roc from college when I played football. People couldn't pronounce my last name, but I never really used it in business. And I was like, that's it right there. That's it. Like they just, that little thing that they did for me, I don't even know if they know this. That little thing right there set me off. So I went on a podcast after that, and I'm like, how can I get known globally? I didn't know anything about podcasts. I thought they were difficult. I thought it was like radio.
Right.
So this guy invited me on a show that was at that event, and his name is Chris Donaldson, and shout out to Chris. And he had me on, and I'm like, shit, I love this. This is easy. I was in my office, like carrying on. I'm like, this is a podcast. Like I could do this.
Right.
So I did that. And then it went on from there, and I started my own. I wanted a platform for people to share their stories, and it just took off from there, brother. I can't explain it other than that, like the Noah's Ark story in the Bible. Noah built an ark. I'm not saying I'm Noah. Everybody has this capability. You have an inclination or an intuition, or God's speaking to you, right? And he's telling you to do different things, or your intuition, whatever you believe in, is telling you to do certain things. And you think you know why. Your subconscious mind's trying to justify why you're doing it, right? And you know you're doing the right thing. You know you have a purpose, but you don't see the big picture, the omni focus, like the big picture over top. You just see your individual focus. But as long as you're obedient and just follow what you think is right and keep doing it consistently, before you know it, the big omni-focused picture starts to become prevalent. You can start to see why. Oh, that's why this is happening. Oh, I'm so glad I stuck with it, man. I'm so glad I kept doing this. What's happened though, dude? Listen, I kept being obsessed with getting known. Like, how can I get known globally? I know this is the answer because I can impact millions of people if I do this. I was DMing people on Instagram through this, trying to find people to guest on the podcast, just connecting with people. And I ran into a guy named Jared Yellen. And from that relationship, we just did an Instagram live together. I interviewed him a little bit. He interviewed me. We talked. We hit it off. And now we have a tech company that's getting ready to launch a product in 60 days, an MVP that is going to be worth multiple billions of dollars. There's no doubt in my mind. It's a disruptor. It's called Blueprinted. It's coming out. And that came from all this stuff. And I'm looking back and I'm like, that is why this all happened. Because who knows, if I didn't have a blue check mark on the Instagram or the followers or whatever the content that I'm putting out, who knows if he would have answered that DM? You know, I don't know. And so there's that, and there's other things that are happening behind the scenes right now that I can't get into yet, but that are just all coming from me starting on this journey, which I had no idea why this journey was happening exactly. I thought I did, but now it's coming to light like, oh, that's why. So be obedient to your intuition. If you're a believer in God, I am. I believe in an all-powerful God. I don't apologize for that. I'm put here on this planet with unlimited potential to do anything I want to. And everybody that's listening to this or watching this has the same thing. You just need to realize it.
I love it, man. I wanted to just end on that because that's just a great way to end. But I did, you're busy, and I appreciate you being here. I want to kind of ask you one more question. We're on with Mike Ciorrocco, Mike C-Roc. It's funny, people know my real last name, and I'm like, Mike, how do you pronounce your name? But anyway, we're on with Mike C-Roc. He's the author of Rocket Fuel: Convert Setbacks to Become Unstoppable. If you'd like some more information about C-Roc, you can go to MikeCroc.com. You can find him on Instagram, Mikey C-Roc. And it's if you've been listening up until this moment, you just kind of heard what he said. He got started, and that's really one of the important things that I was just listening to him about, and it's just really inspiring. So when I'm just trying to figure out where your inspiration comes from. And you just talked about God, but where does C-Roc go to get inspired on a daily basis? Like, how do you keep up this positive mental outlook? Do you listen to podcasts? Do you read books? A lot of people have a different process. I'm just curious about what your process is, and maybe the viewers and listeners can implement it, because, we've talked offline before, and, we're both just kind of like simple guys just out there hustling, really. Where do you go to get inspired? What do you do to get inspired?
Well, first of all, I remind myself every day of what my mission is, and I write my goals down in the morning. And then anytime I feel like off, I write my goals down again, because here's the thing. Again, I'm put here by an all-powerful God with a certain potential, and I feel like it's a dishonor and a slap in the face to my creator to not go after my potential, first of all. Second of all, my purpose is all people are unstoppable to living the life of their dreams. That's my purpose. So if all people, that gives me a filter for every decision that I make, action I take, word I speak, has to go towards that purpose. And so everything I do is revolved around that. So if I feel off, I write it down again. Now, I do listen to podcasts. I read books. I try to stick with my crew in the 10X community, because I don't want to get confused and off track. And, I try to stick in that group, because I see what's happening. Like, one thing about Grant is he always elevates. It's like a mentor and a mentee's chasing him, and hopefully passes him one day. But it's going to take Grant to be plucked from this planet probably to catch him, because of the fact that he keeps elevating himself. And that's the kind of mentor that I want. And so that's what motivates me to keep watching, what he does. And then I just try to follow that blueprint. And, but by the way, what I'm doing with this tech thing with my partner, Jared, and my other partners that are with me, like, these guys don't have a tech product, like my mentors and stuff. So this is how I think we can catch them, because I'm constantly with this. Like, I love him to death and I want to support his mission. Don't get me wrong, but I'm the type of guy that, like, we got in a little competition with the followers in Clubhouse.
We did.
I want to win.
And
dude.
you won, and he won, just so everyone knows. I'll admit.
Yeah, no, not right now, but it's a game to me, dude.
Right.
It's a game. And I want to figure out ways. Okay, what are they missing on that maybe I can get that'll, like, help me advance?
Right.
And not to beat them and beat them down, but to elevate them further. That's the way I look at things. So that's how I stay inspired, man.
I love it, man. You've been great. I'm fired up, man. I'm ready to go. I'm so glad you're here. I wish we did it maybe a little bit earlier to get my day started a little bit faster, but thanks so much for being here. We've been on with Mike Ciorrocco, C-Roc. He's the author of Rocket Fuel, Convert Setbacks to Become Unstoppable. You heard him. He's an inspiring guy. He's doing great things. And you heard of his past. He's just like everybody else, but he's out there, he's hustling, he's putting in the work, and there's really no secret to really what he's doing, right? It's just out there putting in the work day after day. He's got systems in place, like he talked about, how he writes down his goals each and every day, and he gets inspired by others like Grant Cardone, and he's trying to level up, and there's nothing wrong with that. And his book, Rocket Fuel, is going to do some great things. And again, the foreword has been written by Grant Cardone. If you'd like some more information about C-Roc, you can just go to MikeCroc.com. You can find him on Instagram, Mikey C-Roc. Also, if you just Google him, by the way, I know you know this, if you just Google his name, C-Roc as well, he's the first thing that comes up, which is, that doesn't just happen. He's obviously, doing stuff out there as well. So it's been an amazing show. I'm super grateful. We talked about being grateful. I'm grateful for you, man. I'm glad we met on Clubhouse. My name is Michael Alden. That's C-Roc, and we'll see you soon. Hey, it's Mike Alden. I hope you're enjoying the Alden Report as much as I am. I love bringing to you new and exciting people that add value to your life. I'm also super excited to announce my latest book, Bestseller Secrets. Listen, if you're an author, maybe you're thinking about writing a book, maybe you've already written a book, maybe you're an entrepreneur and you want to continue to grow your brand, maybe you're an entrepreneur and you want to bring in more leads, maybe you're a stay-at-home mom and you wrote a cookbook or a children's book, maybe you wrote a fantasy book, a self-help book, a tell-all book, a novel. It doesn't really matter. In my latest book, Bestseller Secrets, I give you all the information that I've literally spent millions of dollars trying to figure this thing out, and I'm going to give it to you absolutely free with my book, Bestseller Secrets. Go to bestsellersecretsbook.com. Again, it's bestsellersecretsbook.com. I give you all the information that I've spent literally millions of dollars trying to figure this whole world out. My books have gone on to do amazing things. I'm a 3-time Wall Street Journal, USA Today bestselling author. I've hit #1 on Amazon hundreds of times. My books have been the #1 book in the world against all books in every category. And I've also done this for other authors. And I'm giving you this information absolutely free. Just go to bestsellersecretsbook.com. You got to pay a small processing fee, but it doesn't really matter, again, because I've spent millions of dollars. And here's the other secret. You can do all this stuff yourself. If you don't have a team, that's okay. If you don't have a lot of time, that's okay. You read the information in my book, again, whether you just started writing a book, whether you've written the book, whether you wrote the book years ago, and you want to kind of resurrect it. In my book, Bestseller Secrets, I show you exactly what you need to do, and I'm giving you the book absolutely free. Go to bestsellersecretsbook.com, download the book, take that information, use it to become a bona fide, legitimate #1 bestseller. I show you how to become a #1 bestseller in less than 24 hours. And again, I'm giving you this information for free. Go to bestsellersecretsbook.com. Again, it's bestsellersecretsbook.com.